to come here and work on Monday, Tuesday. If I actually do
Oh, you
the
have to
work.
use.
I felt this was better.
The board will only receive information in the meantime, they will not act on anything.
Gotcha. Correct. All right, so we will call our work session to order, our September work session. I will note that we do not have a quorum, so we will take the information, but we cannot make any official act until we have a quorum. And once we have a quorum, we'll make that announcement. So I'll turn it over to you, Chief, so you can get us
All
started.
right, good afternoon, Vice Chair, Mrs. Swanson, board members, and Dr. Taylor. I am really excited for today's session. Fundamentally, as you see, there's a lot happening in the world of AI. So we wanted to bring to you a series of sessions. So this is the first session in those series to really kind of ground us and provide a overall understanding about what an artificial intelligence is, what is machine learning is, because there's already a lot happened in the world of AI and lots going to happen. So I think really understanding the fundamentals and how the AI is impacting not just the business operations, but also the education, and really understanding the whole scope of where it is headed while you work on the policies, while you work on the upcoming strategic initiatives, while you look at the ethical implementation of AI. We thought it's absolutely critical to have these conversations so you know when you're looking at the policies, you know what to look for and everything. So I'm going to start probably asking a question. Well, let's talk about AI, right? So even though there's a question, I'm going to say there are three reasons, right? Number one is the data, right? So if you go back about 10, 20 years, a lot of these things did not exist, right? Whether you talk about Internet of Things, right? If you look at our house, there's so many things connected to the internet, right? Whether you look at your social media, the number of emails you generated, whether you're talking about structured databases like your SIS systems, your ERP, there's a lot of data. I was reading an article, it was estimated that on a given day, globally, we generate about 328 million terabytes of data. Think about that for a second, right? Just within Wake County, also there's a lot of information we generate on a daily basis. Now, that 328 million terabytes of data, you can correlate to every person on this earth writing 5 novels every day. That's the amount of data. It's literally, we are flooded with data, right? So that's number one reason. Number two reason is, what the big thing about AI is there are tools and technologies which are available right now to actually process that data, right? So that's the power to make sure. And what happened in the past, to really look at the data, it used to cost millions of dollars and resources and everything. But now you have tools like your ChatGPTs and a lot of really available tools where they can process the information, right? The third reason is when you have the data, when you have the tools, when you talk about technologies and all these things, and when you put these two things together, you can actually look at meaningful information. That's the power of AI. Those are the three reasons why AI all of a sudden is ballooned up to really talk about what is happening in the world of AI and technology. It is impacting every walk of our life right now, right? So we want to make sure we make AI a thought partner as we navigate through this process, but also with any powerful solution, right? there are some, guardrails we have to be aware of, right? Even if you look at AI is not perfect. AI has its own issues, especially if it's trained based on some biased data information, the results are going to be bad. So we have to put those guardrails to really make sure how we implement ethically and make sure those privacies are looked into and everything, right? The last thing I'm going to say is AI isn't another technology gadget. It is much more foundational, much more basic. You can correlate to start of the internet, when we had internet for the first time, when we had electricity for the first time. So it is much more foundational, much more basic, right? So it is going to start impacting organizations the way they operate, right? I know we have a loaded session today. I'm not going to take too much time, but we do have the Amazon Web Services team with us. They were gracious enough to come in today to really provide that information today so that you can ask the right questions and make sure you have all the information you need. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Leonard, who is here from AWS team, and I'll step back and, all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. The team is really excited to be here today. Really looking forward to this session and the next sessions that we're going to have following this. And we want to make this as interactive as possible. So just want to make sure that you stop us at any point along the way, because we want to make sure that you are getting out of this what you need. So I thought I would start with just intro, and I'll intro the team so I don't take up too much time, and then I'll turn it over and we can dive right into the session. So my name is Anne-Marie Lehner, and I'm from Amazon Web Services, and I'm the K-12 strategy leader at AWS. And what does that mean? Well, AWS has invested in leaders from the various areas of industry, business, education, to bring those folks onto teams so that we can be there to really help to drive the strategy so that we know at AWS what is important to our customers. So my whole background is in K-12 public education, which is where I know Dr. Ken Thompson and Stashi. I worked for over 30 years at the Rochester City School District, mid-sized urban district in upstate New York. And I was the CTO for about 11 years there, which is where I have met with these folks and been on teams with these folks along the years. So when I left my former district, when I retired after my 30 years, I was actually going to start consulting, and then AWS came calling and said, hey, we really think it's important to start bringing on a K-12 team. Would you come to AWS and start to develop the strategy around how we support K-12 customers? So now, today, with my team, we essentially support the sales teams that are across the country who support our customers, and we support our customers directly. So, it's really important to us to make sure that we are here to support what our customers' priorities are. So that's why when Ken reached out and said, hey, we would like to bring you folks on, would you be able to deliver some educational sessions to our Board of Education? That's why we're here. So anyway, introduce the team. So we have Kevin McCandless, and you're going to hear from Kevin in a moment. Kevin is the technical arm of our K-12 team. And Praveen, I'm not sure Praveen is Praveen Kata. Praveen is also on our K-12 team, and he supports primarily AI ML for K-12 education. And we have Brittany Vagey. Brittany is actually local, so she is your AWS account manager. So she has been working with the Wake County team for several months now. And last but definitely not least, we have Mary Strain. So Mary is our AI ML education specialist. So she works with education customers, not just K-12, but higher ed institutions and ed tech companies, and travels really throughout the U.S. and actually Europe now, I'm hearing, and talks about AI ML in education. So Mary is here today to deliver a lot of information to you, but as I said, we want to make this interactive, so please feel free to stop us along the way. So before I turn it over to Mary, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin. He's going to just do a really fun little activity, little AI trivia with you guys.
All right, thank you. So again, thank you all for having us. So to start off the session, we thought we would do a little trivia. So if anyone has ever done Kahoot, this is very similar to Kahoot. It's kind of Amazon's own version of it. So anyone in the room who wants to join, go ahead, take out your phone, scan the QR code, and then it's just going to be, I think it's 8 total, kind of just AI trivia questions to get us started, get your minds thinking a little bit for the session today.
And be mindful, we may have some folks from the public may scan. So if we see more than the number of folks in here, we know that our folks online are watching.
So we'll give everyone a minute or two to join. And so it should just ask you for a username. There are no prizes other than bragging rights. All right, cool. Anyone trying to get in still, or should we go ahead and get started?
Is that?
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so the way this is going to work, if you haven't done Kahoot before, essentially a question is going to pop up on the screen as well as on your phone. There will be a question and then 4 answers. You pick the answer you think is right. You get points based on if it's the right answer and based on how quickly you answer it as well. Like I said, these are all just going to be kind of fun AI trivia questions. All right. First question, what does AI stand for? We've already said AI a ton of times today. Let's double check what it actually means. So automated intelligence, advanced intellect, augmented intelligence, artificial intelligence. There we go. So AI is artificial intelligence. Again, we throw around AI all the time. We like to be very clear about the terms that we're using whenever we talk about AI. These days, people often use AI when they're really talking specifically about generative AI. And people, when they talk about generative AI, really what they're talking about is ChatGPT. Right? So we like to be very clear about the terminology and the words that we use when we have these discussions. And again, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're really just talking about the whole idea of trying to make computers act like humans or act intelligently, right? ChatGPT and generative AI are subsets of AI. All right, next question. Originally proposed in 1950, what tests a machine's ability to imitate human behavior? So the imitation test, the Turing test, the human replicant test, or the computer intelligence test? Correct, yeah, this one is the Turing test. So this was a test proposed by Alan Turing in 1950. Has anyone seen the movie The Imitation Game? Right, so again, that's a movie about Alan Turing. Again, this is a test, like I said, proposed all the way back in 1950, right? So you can trace AI and the idea of AI all the way back to the 1900s, even before 1950. But again, the idea of this test was that if essentially an independent observer can't tell the difference between a human response and a computer response, then that computer passes the Turing test and can pass off as human intelligence, right? Now, who first coined the term artificial intelligence in 1956? Was it Alan Turing? Was it Isaac Asimov, John McCarthy, or Albert Einstein? All right, it was John McCarthy. So who the two that selected John McCarthy? Right? Yeah, so John McCarthy, he proposed this term. I believe he was giving a symposium it was Dartmouth College, I believe, where that was the first kind of documented use of the term artificial intelligence. So again, the idea of computer intelligence can be traced back further than this, but 1956 was the first actual use of the term artificial intelligence. So again, the ideas of AI and the concepts of AI have been around for decades, right? All right, now coming forward, what year was ChatGPT released to consumers? 2024, 2022, 2019, or 2015? Again, we're talking about the consumer version of ChatGPT, correct? So it was 2022 Before this, they did release some of their GPT models were available before 2022, but 2022 was when they actually released like the chatbot, the classic ChatGPT user interface. So again, while AI has been around for decades, generative AI, really spurred by this release of ChatGPT, is what has really brought it to the forefront and is now making it explode and grow at a much faster rate now. I will do a quick leaderboard check. We're halfway through.
I think we can keep that.
Right.
All right, we won't call it any names. We won't call it any names.
That's why you give yourself a.
Just in case.
All right.
Mark's question. Sit next to you, man.
All right, which of the following is not an example of AI? Facial recognition, voice assistance, calculators, or fraud detection?
No, don't say that.
Don't say that. So again, like I said, AI, it's pretty much embedded in almost everything these days. Exactly like Sasha was just saying, it's a foundational technology now that it's used in facial recognition. If you use your face to unlock your phone, if you use Siri or Alexa or any of those voice assistants, those are all powered by artificial intelligence. Fraud detection in healthcare and banks and financial services. If you ever get an alert that you might have a fraudulent transaction on your credit card, chances are that was detected by AI. So again, this is a foundational technology these days, just like the internet, just like electricity. Again, what's new is generative AI specifically and how that is now adding into all these technologies. But not everything needs to or should be AI, right? Calculators are an example. Those follow mathematical rules, right? That doesn't need to be AI. And the same thing, not every use case, not every technology needs to have AI, especially when you think about things like responsible and ethical use, right? So again, keep that in mind as well. All right, in Terminator, any sci-fi fans, what AI system starts the war against humans? Is it HAL 9000? Is it Ultron? Is it The Matrix? Is it Skynet?
Depends on which Terminator movie.
Fair.
I know that.
Yeah, so it is Skynet in the Terminator movies. Again, so also kind of the dangers, the possible dangers of AI, right, have also been at the forefront of sort of public consciousness for a while, especially in the genres of science fiction and that kind of stuff as well, too, right? Obviously, I don't think we're anywhere close to Skynet, hopefully happening in real life. But there are real, actual risks and dangers with AI. So a more recent real example, which car did a customer convince an AI chatbot to sell him for $1? This was 2 years ago in 2023. Was it a 2024 Chevy Tahoe, 2018 Honda Civic, a Mustang Hot Wheel, a 25 Tesla Cybertruck?
Oh, that's a trick question. I'm not paying attention.
All right, so it was a 2024 Chevy Tahoe. So again, this is an example. If you haven't heard this news story, it was like a local Chevy dealership. I don't recall where. They put a Gen AI chatbot on their website, and someone logged on and basically convinced the chatbot to add, and that's a deal, no takesies, backsies, to the end of every one of its responses. And so then they were like, all right, my budget's only $1, sell me a car. And it was like, all right, that's a deal, no takesies, backsies. So again, that's just a silly, they did not honor the deal, so he did not actually get the car. It was not a legally binding chatbot. But again, this is kind of a silly example of if you don't have guardrails, if you don't implement these appropriately, if you don't have the data, the high quality data underlying these systems, then things like this can happen. Right? So imagine how bad this could be with a student or a teacher tricking a chatbot or misusing a chatbot, instead of something like this. All right, we'll do a leaderboard check before. There's one more question.
Don't.
All right, so top 3 staying strong.
I just dropped out for the record. Taking all the learning.
I just failed.
All right, so last question here.
Make it to the top.
According to Thomson Reuters, how much time will AI save professionals by 2029? 3 hours per week, 5 hours per week, 12 hours per week, or 40 hours per week? So again, these are just estimates according to this study. But yeah, the answer is 12 hours per week, right? Imagine, despite all of those dangers, if you don't implement AI correctly, again, the benefits are super promising with AI and how much they can enhance and boost productivity in the workplace, right? So imagine a teacher that has 12 extra hours a week to focus on working with their students, right? Imagine how game-changing that could be for a classroom teacher. Imagine how game-changing that could be for every single one of us in this room, right? If you have 12 extra weeks to focus on things that matter instead of drafting emails or editing documents or all of that kind of boring stuff that AI can be doing and helping you do, right? But again, it's not going to save you 40 hours per week. AI is not going to replace jobs, right? Again, it's only going to make people who are already working in those roles more efficient and hopefully better and deliver higher quality content, curriculum, instruction, whatever it may be. All right, so that's all we have for trivia. We'll do final leaderboard check. Again, no prizes other than bragging rights. But there we go. So thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
I did not have this on my bingo card, by the way, so we may need to start bringing this to every meeting that we have.
All right, so now I'm going to hand it over to Mary.
Thank you.
Do you have that clicker for me?
I made it just 10. Is that?
It's a little wonky looking.
It'll come back.
That's yours. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Oh, perfect. Thank you, sir.
We can get started if you'd like. Does that work for everyone? Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. My name is Mary Strain. I am the AI and Machine Learning Strategist for Education in the U.S. That means that I have the pleasure of talking to your peers and colleagues all over the country, learning a little bit about what they're interested in relative to artificial intelligence, what we should and should not be doing. I also, as Anne-Marie mentioned, have the ability to, the purview of talking to higher education. So I'm able to see sort of that pathway for students through K-12, community colleges, higher education, and beyond. So it's a pleasure to be here today and talk. And as Anne-Marie, I also have a background. I was a middle school teacher in the Bronx for 10 years prior to moving into educational technology. So that has framed how I think about supporting students across the country and using technology in a way that I think is thoughtful and responsible. So, we have a lot to talk about. I was given a list of sort of objectives that said, we want to sort of soup to nuts. So I'm going to talk very quickly. I'm from Philadelphia. Go Birds! I'll say it. I'll say it on the record. So I speak very, very quickly, but it's not a large group. I welcome conversation. I welcome questions. Feedback throughout the presentation so that we can make this a conversation. But I will try to go fairly quickly to provide an overview. I know that you have subsequent sessions with our team, and so this is really trying to frame that out at a 30,000-foot view. One of the things they asked us to talk about was how we got here, but Kevin's done a terrific job already doing this in an interactive way and just talking about how artificial intelligence and machine learning is certainly not new, but what we're going to focus on today is generative AI and sort of how that has taken our students, our teachers, our staff, and sort of the whole world by storm. And so that will be the focus of the conversation today. Again, just to review the AI basics, artificial intelligence has been around for a long time. It's a technique that allows machines to be able to mimic human intelligence. There's also a subset of that, which is machine learning, which is sort of the mathematic algorithms behind that, using things like predictive artificial intelligence, so predictive machine learning. You know, if you bought 5 pairs of sneakers, you might buy another pair of sneakers kind of thing. And then there's generative AI, which is a subset of machine learning that really uses huge volumes of data to allow us to have natural language conversations with huge amounts of data. And that is transformational. So a couple of just sort of market framing pieces here. This is moving at an unprecedented pace, and I'm sure you all very much feel that both personally and professionally. And so I think it's important just to put at the speed at which this is moving into context. So a couple of quick sort of facts, a pace of adoption. It took 78 months for Google Translate to get to 100 million users. It took 70 months for 100 million users of Uber. It took 95 months for 100 million users of Spotify, 30 months for 100 million users of Instagram. It took 2 months for ChatGPT to get to 100 million users. And so just the scale at which people were adopting this technology is absolutely staggering, even compared to other solutions that are we consider advanced and fairly recent. As we mentioned, or we'll talk a little bit more about this, the generative AI is primarily powered by foundation models, which are huge, huge corpuses of data. We know about ChatGPT. That's sort of become the Kleenex of generative AI capabilities, but it is one of thousands and thousands of foundation models. There are 131 new foundation models released every month. And so what we're seeing is huge models like ChatGPT. We're seeing smaller models that are built by individual organizations. We're seeing models that actually can be built for individual people. We're seeing models that are very good at math and models that are very good at biochemical engineering. So all of that sort of pace of innovation continues apace and has a big impact on public sector organizations when you think about where you're making investments. And how you're supporting students with the most capable and most cost-effective models. There's been $100 billion in U.S. investment alone in 2025. So we know that the market's going crazy, that people are very investing in this. This is transforming our economy and how we work. And then this is sort of the last sort of quick framing slide, but I wanted to highlight where it's making an impact. And so the light blue section is industries where we're seeing cost savings from the use of AI, and the pink and darker blue section is where they're actually generating revenue from AI. So this is a big deal. And so in every single industry we're seeing and these early uses of AI having a big impact on saving money and increasing revenue. So clearly this is not going away. The toothpaste is out of the tube. As public sector organizations, as school districts who have a mission to support students and to support your communities, we need to be thinking about how we tackle this and how we approach this in a way that empowers students to be productive members of society where this is happening and where we can adopt it to improve how we impact students and teachers. So how am I seeing AI, ML, and K-12 education, and what am I seeing around the country? So I wanted to just highlight again, what is generative AI? Generative AI is powered by foundation models, which are pre-trained on vast amounts of unstructured data, meaning it's read every book, it's looked at every blog, it's watched every movie, all of it, in ways that we really never have done that before. So it uses that information, it creates mathematical equations that allow you to have context and connections to various types of information and to be able to have a natural language conversation with huge, huge amounts of data. So you can ask it a question, it'll give you a question back. Most of you have at least experimented with this. But what could possibly go wrong with huge amounts of data gotten from the internet? And this is where I think is we have to be really attentive as stewards of public sector funds and as educators. And so some of the big challenges with artificial intelligence are hallucinations, inaccuracies. It is wrong and can be wrong often and convincingly wrong. So we deal with things like misinformation and disinformation, and more importantly, giving the artificial intelligence too much credence. right? Where students are relying on it, or educators are relying on it without having a discerning eye towards looking for disinformation. Artificial intelligence has reflected terrible bias. So please show me a picture of doctors, and it's a bunch of male doctors, right? Now, I want to sort of dig into that because it absolutely is true, but guess what? Artificial intelligence was trained on what we taught it. So it reflects the sort of distributed bias of the global community. I shouldn't say that. It reflects the distributed bias of people who have contributed to the information. It also is biased in the sense that even with the large numbers of large language models that exist now, 95% of them are primarily focused on only 5 language groups, right? So they're really only representing those 5 language groups. And with the technology that's sort of taking over, we have to be attentive to the fact that there are at least 2,000 language groups. So there's large numbers of people and communities and experiences that are not part of this sort of knowledge base, so to speak. So there's also copyright and IP. We hear a lot about newspaper, or the New York Times, or artists and creatives who are suing large language model companies because their content is appearing without proper attestation. And that, again, is a significant challenge. And then, of course, security and privacy. 131 foundation models a week are being made because we are giving them an awful lot of information. So every time students or your teachers or whomever is using some of these commercial applications without appropriate security guardrails, you are giving them the information, right? So we hear this a lot. If the solution is free, you are the product, correct? So we need to be attentive to all of these major concerns. And one of the things that I think is incredibly important to talk about here is these major concerns have a disproportionate effect on, I think, educational institutions. People come to school expecting accurate information, equitable and unbiased approaches, to be secure and safe with their data, and to be secure and safe with the interactions that they have with the capabilities that you provide. So this is uniquely challenging, I think, in the public sector, and particularly in education. So what I want to talk today is about sort of a combination of a technical infrastructure that are aligned to your mission and values. So Kevin mentioned things like guardrails. We mentioned things like using your data to support the capabilities. So all of those challenges can be mitigated technically. Not solved entirely, mitigated technically. There are guardrails to prevent toxic content. There are ways to assess bias and output. There are ways, certainly ways to prevent models from using your information with security protocols. All of that is possible, but we need to put that into play that is aligned to institutional mission and values. How are we thinking about what you should and want to accomplish using artificial intelligence, and then the technical infrastructure to be able to execute on that? So I do think of it as a virtuous circle. So a solid generative AI strategy, when we think about the technical infrastructure, relies on having flexibility. We are very much at the infancy of this technology. And when making investments and thinking about this, we don't want to go all in on a single model or a single approach, because in 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 months, that technology will have changed. So the flexibility of your technical infrastructure matters a great deal. The ability to adapt and adopt new capabilities as they become available, both from a cost-saving perspective, but also as the capabilities improve. You want to ensure secure customization. We'll talk a little bit more about data, and I know you're going to have a whole session on it, but asking questions or engaging with large language models without using your data safely and securely results in a lot of hallucination. So we want to use that customization to improve the accuracy. If a parent were to go onto a chatbot, Wake County Schools, how do I register my student for kindergarten? You don't want them to get information about how to register for kindergarten in Charlotte. Okay? So you need to sort of have that approach. Thinking about cost-effective infrastructure. Very large foundation models are very performant. They work very well. They are very expensive. When we think about scale. So thinking about how you might select smaller foundation models to build on, or how you work with partners that do that. And then sort of looking at generative AI-powered solutions, things like agents and more capabilities as they become available. These are some key trends that I'm seeing. We're a little beyond the how do we stop using this? how do we police students, to what I see as key educational trends. One, AI is becoming institutionalized. We are seeing it in the educational technology products that you are consuming. We are seeing your students use it. We are seeing your faculty members use it. It's becoming institutionalized. And that really begs that we think about a platform and an approach that is flexible enough to take advantage of what's next. And so we're making investments where we know we can be nimble. There's increasingly a demand for measurable return on investment and business value. Imagine that. According to Goldman Sachs last summer issued a report, less than 30% of all AI projects that people pursue, sort of in the private and public sector, actually go to production. It's millions and millions and millions of dollars of wasted resources because they have not decided to solve problems that people cared about solving. Moving from experimentation, but saying, not how do I use AI in my school district or with my students, but what do I want to accomplish, and can AI help us get there in a more equitable, thoughtful, better way? So putting the needs of the system before the technology is critically important. So a disciplined approach to use cases that really target return on investment in a way that we measure both, whether that's student achievement, faculty retention, or cost savings. We have seen that 2025 has become the year of agents, and I think there's a slide to describe it, but agents are essentially a small software service that can execute tasks on your behalf. For those of you who've used generative AI capabilities, asked a question, summarize a report, send an email, we're doing that with text. That is realizing less than 25% of the overall value of what generative AI can actually realize. Agents allow you to actually do the workflow. So think of the student who's registering to go to school here. We can have a chatbot interact with the parent about what documents are needed. When the parent then uploads their proof of address or their birth certificate, now we can have an agent then extract the information from that document and then send that to the appropriate school. They can check the immunization record. They could do a background check on a new teacher. It can send the parent an email confirming it. It can then register that child in the classroom, send a confirmation email to the principal. So that entire workflow can actually be automated and executed using agentic workflows. And so that's where I think we're going to start to see really transforming processes. To date, I've seen a lot of chatbots on terrible processes. Things that are just not a good process. We'll put a chatbot to help people figure out this terrible process. Agents give you the opportunity to transform the process, reduce points of friction for your community. And then lastly, I think what's really happened is that the demand for artificial intelligence has exposed a real problem with data. Access to data, clean access to modernized data, data that is available and accessible. Often in school systems, we have a student information system, we have a learning management system, we have an ERP system, we have a transportation system, and none of it talks to each other. And in many cases, in this system, it's last name first, first name last. In this system, it's first name first, last name last. They can't talk to each other. The absolute value of generative AI is its ability to look at massive, massive quantities of data. And so if we are underutilizing its capabilities if we are not bringing that data together in a way where we can actually see more holistically what's happening with students, with a facility, with a faculty member, with an institution. So I just wanted to highlight sort of what we're thinking about in terms of how does Wake County Public Schools become an AI-ready organization? How do we set up the framework to be nimble enough and thoughtful enough in making decisions about how we embrace this technology? And this is primarily from a technical perspective, but the first layer here is a foundational layer of data. Where is your data? Can you access it? Is it available to the people who have the right permissions to see it? How are you governing it? How are you storing it so that it is available? You cannot have any thoughtful AI application without appropriate data, without good quality data. You will have a terrible outcome if the data is poor. Right? The middle layer talks about your tooling, right? How you might choose foundation models, what knowledge bases, what agents you might use, how you're implementing guardrails, what the data AI prep and enrichment might be. So this is technical tooling that you can access. And then the top layer is a disciplined approach to use cases, selecting use cases that are actually going to drive your strategic objectives for the district, student success, really kind of move the needle in those places. So we're going to talk a little bit about the data foundation first. As I said, the generative AI applications are really powered by data, and so there is a huge amount of information necessary to have good outcomes. And that data differentiates the Wake County AI applications from Charlotte, from Miami-Dade, from New York City. And so using that data in a safe and thoughtful way to enhance the outcome of foundation models and that output is critically important to get accurate and thoughtful responses. This is how you all typically see a dashboard, right? You see student achievement, you see budgets, you see growth, you see population trajectory. In that middle piece, you see sort of a structured database. This is how we consume data. This is how AI can see data. And I think this is a transformational shift in understanding how we can think differently about a particular entity, whether that's a student, a school, a teacher, a principal, a transportation hub. This is a knowledge graph that was developed by the University of Delaware. This is all of their course content for 10 years in their psychology program. And what they've uncovered is a link and a relationship between data that they were never able to see before. I'm working with educational technology companies now that are putting a student at the center of this and saying, what is their course load? What interventions are they getting? What are the teachers that they've been connected to? And you're able to glean insights that as human beings we simply could not see. It's transformational. I am very excited about this. This is the same knowledge graph that, as Kevin mentioned, is used to detect fraud at the New York Stock Exchange. Right? This is the same kind of knowledge graph that we use to detect national security incidences. But if we think about a bus route in Wake County, and I know that must be a challenge, how do we look and see connections and places that we didn't know we could make changes to how we're approaching students, faculty, teachers, and facilities. And so this is, again, I think the underlying capability of generative AI is to look at such huge amounts of data and make connections that we would normally not see. I'm going to pause there and just ask you a little bit about the knowledge graph. Any thoughts?
Any thoughts anyone have? Or you just...
No? Okay. Again, I just wanted to highlight, I think that if you were to think about a teacher in the classroom who wanted to understand more about a student that they had, how challenging is that? How challenging is it for them? I mean, I was a middle school teacher, and I would get state test score reports. And there were several bar graphs, and there were a couple line graphs, and some scatter plots that showed me. But I wasn't able to look back and say, yes, but has this student moved from 5 schools in 3 years? I wasn't able to look back and say, hey, this student was recommended for an IEP that nobody ever followed up on. Hey, this student had these 5 teachers, and they're showing growth in this area. What can we do with these teachers to scale those best practices to improve student achievement? And so for me, it is that transformational understanding of huge, huge, huge amounts of data. This sits underneath the chatbot. I'm not suggesting we all dissect that. But we could ask questions of this complex data map and get different answers. I was in Alabama, and one of the folks who works with the internal affairs with the police said, you know, we have CompStat reports that come to the state every week, and those CompStat reports are pie charts, line graphs, scatter plots, and they are the same data every single time. It never changes. The needle moves us not at all. And he said, you know why? Because I know the questions that are going to be asked, the sheriffs know the questions that are going to be asked, and we just are sitting on the same data forever. In school systems, we ask the same information, zip code, where the student was previously, you know, all the same information is the, you know, and we get the same answers for 100 years because we're not asking different questions because we don't have the technical ability to look across this huge quantities of data. And for me, that's where I get very passionate about this work. It is the transformational insights, the 360-degree view of a school, of a principal, of an entity, anything on campus. And so to me, this is super exciting.
And I'll just stop
Yeah.
right there to let the public know that we now have a quorum, so we can add that to the minutes. Thank you.
Talk a little bit about the tooling and the infrastructure that's necessary, and just to highlight, many of you have consumer-facing AI applications on your phone, and you use them for your personal productivity. There are many AI applications that appear on your desktop, whether it's Copilot or others, and you use them for your personal productivity. And so they are very powerful tools. That market is becoming very crowded. Students are accessing lots and lots and lots of different AI capabilities, as well as other individuals. So those are consumer-facing applications that are incredibly powerful. I also work with our educational technology providers, and they are embedding AI in almost every single capability and capacity that I see. So if you have an LMS system, a student information system, a curriculum, a textbook publisher, an online learning system, they are all adding artificial intelligence capability, and they will be embedded into the tools that your students and faculty are engaging with on a day-to-day basis, as well as your administrators, because a lot of it's going into some of that administrative systems. And then I also want to talk a little bit about custom and proprietary solutions. So it may seem like, well, hey, I have these consumer-facing applications available to me. A lot of the capabilities that we're purchasing will have AI. Wake County Public Schools doesn't need to do anything around artificial intelligence. And I would just challenge you to think back to my knowledge graph. You are the only entity that has all the data, all of it. And nor should your ed tech vendors have all of it. So your ability to look at a high level at the interaction between all of those different capabilities, the interaction between students and faculty, and then the journey of a student or a community member is transformationally different. And so to think about, is there a desire or a need to have custom tools that you build, that you manage, because you have access to all the data and because you want to have those insights across those different domains. Those custom and proprietary solutions, if we think about something that automates IEPs or automates the special education process or automates the transportation processes, cannot be accomplished by using the consumer-facing applications. They require a deeper technical build, more complexity, they require specific knowledge bases, and they require certainly greater security protocols. So that's just a little sort of a lay of the land of the different things. I mentioned AI agents, and I just wanted to remind myself to sort of describe what they are. Again, autonomous or semi-autonomous software systems that reason, plan, act, and accomplish goals. I think that the thing that we hear a lot about is having the agent plan a trip for you, right? So I want to go to Paris, I want to go October 31st to November 7th, plan my trip, and then coming back with an itinerary and everything booked. So those are the kinds of things that we can think about, but we can extrapolate that to IEPs, we can extrapolate that to compliance and accreditation reporting and Blue Ribbon School reporting, et cetera. So this is what most people care about, which is sort of, let's talk about use cases. What are we seeing around the country? And really what I think and my team has reflected on is that there really are three major buckets. Teaching and learning, where we're seeing things like tutor bots or personalized learning, personalized professional learning. Very interesting use case that is in pilot, and I can't mention the district, but they're actually filming teachers for their evaluations and then having AI do a evaluation of the classroom instruction according to national teacher standards to supplement the observation of the principal or the assistant principal, the administrator. And I think we often say, well, AI is so biased, right? I'm not sure that it's more biased than an individual, right? And as a enhancement or add-on to some of those high-stakes assessments, I think it could be an incredibly powerful norming mechanism. I was in a school and a principal is doing an evaluation and they're taking notes on the iPad, but then sometimes they get a phone call or a student comes in or they're not, they're distracted. They're human beings. But having that side assessment, I think, is an incredibly powerful tool. In fact, we had a project at the University of Pittsburgh, which doesn't seem related, but I think it's interesting. They were looking for some quarterbacks on their football team. So they were going to go to the transfer portal. There are thousands and thousands of athletes in the transfer portal. And so the athletic director said, you know, we're a small team. We would say, hey, these 10, 12 schools are like Pitt, right? We know the coaches, we know the academic rigor, we know the teams. So we're just going to look at those schools. And they would work from there. But using artificial intelligence, they were able to use agents to scrape the entire transfer portal and align to a rubric that matched the academic criteria and the athletic criteria that they were looking for. And they came up with 100 one-page summaries of students. But what I thought was most interesting is they had students from junior colleges, right? Students from schools they would never, ever have looked at, simply because they didn't have the time to look at all of the candidates. And so I think about things when we look at like teacher assessment, when we think about even student assessment, can we use artificial intelligence as a norming mechanism in the classroom? So that was a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's interesting. So then there's sort of operations and community engagement, thinking about how we record board meetings or PTA meetings and get them out to parents in a language they can consume. Simply access and engagement. Having the same kind of translation and summary of a meeting with your IEP team and a parent. Okay? And then there's action items that everyone can agree on that the parent is given and not have to remember in writing. Even administrative hearings. Again, transparency, assessment. And then there's the middle place, which is called administration. I like to call it boring AI. But it's where we're seeing the greatest transformation. And those of you who do not work in education, maybe you have a private sector role, you can think about, hey, how are we using this in finance, in insurance, in human resources, in publishing, in science? And those same use cases can be applied to higher education. So again, using artificial intelligence to enhance the onboarding process for your teachers. So new teachers coming into the system that get automated emails, or we've done a project where you can watch your application go through a process like an Amazon package, so you don't lose those teachers in that process while they're waiting for feedback. Is there a way to do automated background checks, right? Is there a way to use agents to sort of access all of that, bring it together, and make better and faster hiring decisions? So simple process. We have a regional information center in Connecticut that said, we just need an HR chatbot. We want to stop answering the same question in HR 45 times. How do I do automatic deposit, right? And so now they have a chatbot based on their HR policies and rules, and it frees up the HR folks to work on things that matter more, right? Rather than answering those same questions. I also have a university, one state south from here, that unfortunately had a staff member pass away, and the only person who knew how to sort of handle their final paychecks and disbursements and things like that was on a 1-month leave. And no one else knew how to handle this, right? So these are places where we can gather that knowledge that's stuck in people's heads, stuck in Google Drive, stuck in SharePoint, stuck in files all over, bring it together and be more responsive. A couple other things when I think about virtual agents, so call centers. Again, we saw a couple of our customers using call center agents that allow people to get the information they need very quickly, and then certainly document processing, which again, when we talk about boring AI, I often think when we think about use cases for artificial intelligence, we don't want to say, what do we want to do with AI? The best thing to do is ask your staff what they want to stop doing. Because what you want to stop doing is really what AI is good at, right? It's not good at having deep, thoughtful conversations with students, but it's very good at processing paper. You know? And so all of the things that we don't want to do anymore can be really valuable and powerful. So again, some common Gen AI use cases we're seeing. So IT developer productivity, teacher assistance, self-service, dashboards, employee chatbots, special education IEP development, document review and processing. And I want to talk a little bit about intelligent document processing. Anybody here ever take a picture of a check to have it end up in your bank account? Okay, that's intelligent document processing. I won't name the district, but there is a large school system in this country that has 19 PDF forms required to apply for kindergarten. In 2022, they had 63,000 students apply. PwC did a report that said each of those documents typically costs $2.50 to process. So that's 19 times 63,000 times $2.50 that could be saved by using artificial intelligence to automatically extract the information necessary and allow people to simply take a picture and submit it and have it handled. And that's millions of dollars, and that's one process. And I'm sure there are similar processes here, whether that's onboarding applications for HR, whether that's student transportation applications, whether that's IEP information, whether that's HR information. So intelligent document processing is one of those boring AI use cases that can have massive ROI. And I don't just mean to save money. I mean it's easier for people. It reduces points of friction. Rather than having a parent walk in here with some of their documentation, right? They work, so it's, again, reducing points of friction, saving money, improving processes. We had the Higley Unified School District that was trying to do enrollment predictions, so we're using artificial intelligence to help them make enrollment predictions, and that actually provided a much lower cost than a service that they had used to help them do that. So again, they were paying $20,000 a year to have this done. We were able to use artificial intelligence to do it at a 90% less. We have a teacher assistant operating in Texas in Region 3, which is the area around Houston. This teaching assistant really is providing them access to administrative information, administrative processes. How do I, when do I, who is, all of that information in real time on their phone, quickly and easily. This is not changing the pedagogy in the classroom. This is, again, alleviating the time it takes individuals to find and access information. Amplify Gen AI was an open source tool developed by Vanderbilt University. It's an AI sandbox, an environment that your district staff could use to experiment, assess cost, to build out new prototypes. And then I wanted to highlight that AWS has a project at Arizona State University where we have built out other use cases, and these again are open source, so they're available for you to take for free. Those include an eCISO, so if you have a new project and it needs to have a security review, you do a quick review of it using artificial intelligence, and the CISO doesn't have to spend all of that time. Generative AI business intelligence, which is asking natural language questions of your data. PDF accessibility, so making your PDFs accessible according to new WCAG standards. Chatbots, IEP assistance, which I think Kevin will speak to, employee assistance, and enrollment prediction. So again, these are all in production use cases, both in the US and abroad for K-12 systems that I think are super interesting because they are about creating not just operational efficiencies, but access for families, access for students, agency for people who are really just engaged in, no offense, often opaque and arcane processes, right, that are not transparent to your families. But all of those use cases require appropriate governance. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of frameworks. This is from the EU. It talks about sort of thinking about what's legal and what is, what your stakeholder pressures are, what you want to accomplish, what's aligned to your mission and values, and then sort of a data layer. And then the pillars of responsible AI. These are from AWS. These are aligned to the UN Commission on Human Rights and Artificial Intelligence, as well as guidance from the US Department of Education on artificial intelligence. This is how we think about building our own capabilities, but more importantly about how we interact with customers. I wanted to highlight that this can become the foundational pillars potentially for your own approach to responsible AI. How do we think about the use cases aligning to our values? How are we ensuring privacy and security? How are we ensuring fairness so that everyone has access to the tools and capabilities that are being built? How are we ensuring transparency and explainability, meaning letting families, communities, students, teachers know when they're interacting with artificial intelligence? Okay. Accountability, training, and inclusion. So lastly, Anne-Marie and your colleagues worked with the Council of Great City Schools to come up with a assessment that allows you to reflect yourselves on where your district is in terms of training, education, governance patterns, data security. We would recommend that you take a look at that and use it as a freely available assessment. And I will end by saying the use cases that we are seeing do not portend a robot overlord. they truly are around providing greater access and agency and transparency and personalization of learning. And so we're very excited about that. That is all. Questions, thoughts? I hope that was helpful.
Well, thank you for bringing this to us and to sharing it. I look forward to the discussion and the formation of our policy as we really take a deeper dive. I mean, AI is here to stay, and so we have a duty to ensure that we are educating our students on how to use it responsibly and to work in collaborations with parents to help them understand the dangers that are all out there. So I'll open up for questions if any of my colleagues have any questions or comments. Ms. Rice?
So, in lieu of everything that we heard, I'm for AI, but the whole point about, for me, AI is, with all that you shared, and I guess maybe it's a district question, how do we support students with using it responsibly? Because while AI is fantastic, I do believe AI is only as good as the human that's putting the information in it. So while we think about, and most people think about community, they're not learning, they're not doing, but to me, the truth of the matter is, only your brain can be the creative piece that tells the AI what you want it to create. Because you can just tell it to do something and create something very simple, but you can still tell if a student really has comprehended an assignment or something, but when you tell AI to do a thing, it really generates what's really inside of their thought process of what they've learned. So what are we doing as a district to show students how to use it responsibly and show them how to use it as 21st century learners? Because this is what it is, regardless, and we don't want to leave them behind just because of our nostalgic ways.
So if you're adding, because you all can answer that question about what are we doing, this is something that continues to develop and evolve. We know that teachers have access to Gemini and other AI tools, but there's still a lot of debate in terms of what it should or shouldn't be used for, and that is where the real question comes in. Most of what teachers can use it for now is really productivity. One of the things that you talked about, I said this to the media earlier, let's determine what things AI does well and let AI do it. And then the things that humans do, let them do that. One of the ways that I know we can best use AI right now is really for certain kinds of student assessments. And so when we think about the K-2 assessment, and when a teacher has to go in and assess kids on reading passages and see how well they are, well, that's something that they know how to do, but it takes a very long time to do it. Well, there's AI technology and software that can actually do that and reduce the amount of time that teachers have. Right now, the biggest concern that I know teachers have is academic integrity, meaning that we have AI that we expose kids to, but we have zero control over what you let your kids have at home in that AI and how we really focus on that academic integrity. So this is no different than what we've been doing for decades, is talking with kids about what is academic integrity and how you need to deploy that and use that, regardless if we're able to discover that or not. Now, I'll say, 10 years ago, we could drop information into a website and determine if kids plagiarize. With AI, that's really difficult to do. And so it is about maintaining academic integrity, helping students to understand the responsible use.
Ms. Evans? Sorry. Dr. Ng.
Thank you. I was listening to the presentation when I was driving in. Thank you so much for the presentation. I actually, yesterday, I had a personal experience with an agent calling for an appointment for HVAC. And maybe for 30 seconds, I was fooled. I was talking to this lovely woman. And she was just echoing everything I said, up to a point where I had some specification I requested I wanted to ask for, and ultimately, I felt dismissed. And so I do have, productivity is one of the things that I think it's a great tool for AI. I just worry about the customer service part of it, and being able to, because we are more and more focused on the customer service with our parents, with our the people that we serve, and so I just want to make sure that we are aware of that potential for losing touch with the customers that we serve, the students, the staff, everybody that we encounter. So that's fortunately somebody actually called me back. A real person called me back and made it right. So so just an experience for you guys to think about.
Thank you, Dr. Ms. Gordon?
Thank you for this presentation. Was amazing. I definitely, the classroom teacher in me can appreciate the gamification at the beginning. So thank you. I also wanted to say how I appreciate too Dr. Ng's point, how several times throughout the presentation you did make note of how this is an added piece. This is not to replace educators in the classroom that have that human educator to student touch. So I did want to raise that. Two things. The first thing is you said this could be used as a norming mechanism as an approach to instruction. And I think we've had this conversation before. I can't remember if it probably was at the policy committee meeting around us as a district really changing the way in which we think about instruction and having it more as a flipped approach as it relates to AI. And so it just made me think of when you said a norming mechanism. But then my last question is I'm assuming this is a needs and assets assessment on slide 40. How do we get access to that?
It's available through the Council of Great City Schools website, cgcs.org, generative AI assessment.
Okay.
We'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you.
So I have just one question. As you all have worked with other districts, what are some lessons that you would share that we should consider as we are developing policy around this important topic?
Yeah, certainly I think the number one is to think about the use case. By starting with what do you want to accomplish? Not looking for ways to use AI. We have a challenge around faculty attrition. We have a challenge around student achievement in this area. We want to do something different with transportation. Start with that challenge and work backwards, right? What is the process? Are there ways that AI can assist? And to center the value of the human experience and think about what humans don't want to do anymore. And that may be a place for artificial intelligence. But the undisciplined approach to putting a chatbot on everything or running full steam ahead with artificial intelligence has proven to be not helpful. So I would really focus on disciplined approach to use case. And then the other component, which I know we're going to have a subsequent session on, is data. It matters a lot. You will not have thoughtful, productive outputs from any AI capability, whether they are your own or from ed tech vendors, et cetera, if your data is not available and accessible in a way that can be consumed and thoughtfully used. Probably a lot of lessons those are for you. And then certainly education and training. I think to the point earlier around academic integrity, and I think about how we support teachers and thinking about moving up Bloom's taxonomy levels. I think AI can actually enhance that, or rather than sort of regurgitate what we did in a lecture. We're having to discern between misinformation and accurate information, compare outputs. Those are the kinds of skills that I think will be incredibly important for 21st century learners. I am on the California State University AI and Workforce Board, and we have really come down on this idea of durable skills as actually the superpowers for students. Things like critical thinking, problem solving, decision making. They will be increasingly important in a world where information is ubiquitously available.
The only thing I would add to what Mary said is, when we're working with school districts, the first question that, whether we're there even to be talking about something that is completely separate from AI and it's cybersecurity, the conversation always shifts to AI, the customer always shifts to AI, and the question they ask is, what is everyone else doing? What should we know? And we always flip it and say, that's not the question to ask. It's just as Mary said, what is a problem that you currently have in your district? What is a challenge that you have? What is a priority that you have? And then, we'll help you think through how AI could help you solve that problem or achieve that mission.
Or not.
Or not, right? Or not, right. So I think it's that whole working backwards approach is really important. To start with your challenge, your mission, and then work backwards. And I think the last session that we're going to be doing, we're actually going to bring a team, someone from our digital innovation team, who's going to actually help walk through this. So there'll be some homework in advance, and we'll, have you bring some challenges or some thoughts, and then we'll actually be leading you through that kind of working backward session as well.
This is all exciting, and we're looking forward to the next phase of the work, and as we tackle a challenging problem that's facing us. So thank you all so much. Is there anything that you need to add, Dr. Taylor?
No, that is it. I'll just be better, ready for the next QR code.
Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
I guess, Dr. Mutillo, your team will be joining us next after a very interesting topic of following AI. So there we are, staffing updates. We'll welcome you all to the table. Thank you all so much.
You're afraid of the big seat.
www.wcpss.net 1/2025-26 Staffing Update. AJ Munilo, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources Christy Dyrone, Senior Director for Talent Acquisition Crystal Gregory, Director for Talent Acquisition Board of Education Work Session September 16, 2025. www.wcpss.net. Two desired outcomes. Board members will gain an understanding of vacancy and hire data as of September 2025. Expanded, targeted recruitment support provided to schools. Updates regarding international teachers, future teachers, student teachers, and job fairs. Additional ongoing recruitment programs. www.wcpss.net. 3 Strategic Plan Alignment. Strategic Priority Essential Pillar and Aim. www.wcpss.net. 4 Vacancy Reporting, September 2025. Position Type. Vacant positions. Fill rate. Change in vacant positions since September 2024. Teachers 148, 98.75% -22. General Education 82, 99.2% -27. Special Education 66, 95.75%. 5 Instruction.
So by the end of this session, we do want to be able to have you have a better understanding of our current vacancy and hiring data, as well as the ways we've expanded our recruitment support. Also an update on some of our pipelines, like international teachers, future teachers, student teachers, and also having a look at future initiatives and efforts that we have. I think we're getting there. But again, I do want to sort of turn this over to both Dr. Christy Dyrone, our Senior Director for Talent Acquisition, and Crystal Gregory, our Director of Recruitment. They are, I think, Christy's finishing up sort of her first cycle in her role, and Crystal, we started right before. All right, we're good.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Christy. So Christy's finishing up her sort of first hiring season, and Crystal, we started, I think, the week of the job fair this spring. So it's sort of right into the frying pan, but she has done a great job of leading us through this recruitment season, learning some of the tools that we have, and really challenging us to look at ways to use them better. So I'm thankful for both of their efforts and really want to, while we do have some work to do, want to turn it over to them to really celebrate some of the continued progress that we've made.
Good afternoon. Before we begin sharing some work that we as a team have accomplished this year with recruitment and hiring, I think it would be wise to try to connect the strategic plan alignment to the work that we do. As you all are aware, the strategic plan states under the operational effectiveness under aim 15 that we recruit, we hire, we develop and retain diverse instructional and non-instructional staff. Along with that, what I would be remiss if I did not share with you is that we also share with our HR team that everything that we do, whether it's about placing a teacher in a classroom or placing a bus driver behind the wheel, it impacts students. So we try to make sure that we're putting the right people in front of students so that they can have successful outcomes. In just a few minutes, you'll hear from Crystal Gregory. She is our Director of Recruitment. She's going to share all of our accomplishments as of September 2025 of this year, as well as share with you our goals moving forward as an HR team.
So, good afternoon. In a time when headlines for us are often filled with challenges, some of the stories about Wake County in recent weeks have been refreshingly positive. So we've heard things like, thinking outside the box, how Wake schools hired an educator for nearly every classroom this fall. Wake schools show fewer vacant teacher positions this year, and Wake County Public School Systems work to fill its pipeline of bus driver candidates. These headlines not only show the hard work of our school staff, our human resources, and our communications and community stakeholders, but it also represents the support of this board. So I want to take a closer look at how these numbers really support these claims that so many of our media partners have made for us. As of September, our teacher fill rate is 98.75%. That represents 148 in-school vacancies across more than 11,700 teaching positions. Compared to last year, that's about 22 fewer vacancies, which are a strong sign of continued progress. In general education, we had vacancies decreased by 27. Special education remains our challenge area with 66 vacancies, which are 5 more than last year. However, we have seen a significant increase in the number of SPED teachers. So while this number does look like it's a negative number, we have actually increased the number of positions that we were able to fill this school year. For instructional assistants, we currently have about 116 vacancies, with 93 of those in special education. It is clear to our team, and now you, that SPED teachers and SPED instructional assistants have to be a priority for both recruitment and retention. And finally, in transportation, we continue to see an improvement. Bus driver vacancies are down by 30 as compared to last September, though we're still operating with a fill rate of about 65% of our desired or ideal fill number. We have also seen incredible progress this year, but transportation still remains a priority concern. And not shown in this slide, but also absolutely worth celebrating, is the progress that our recruitment team has helped to make in maintenance and operations. Since joining us in December, our M&O recruiter has already hired 50 external candidates and 19 internal candidates in 2025 to fill much-needed positions. This level of impact in such a short time is remarkable, and it demonstrates the value of having a dedicated recruiter focused on this area. He continues to push towards a 100% fill rate, and this work is making an incredible difference in our schools and our facilities running smoothly. This is an incredible accomplishment given the scale and scope of our district's operational needs. So since July 1st, we have welcomed more than 3,200 new employees to WCPSS. This includes over 2,000 teachers with a mix of new hires, rehires, return hires, and promotions. One encouraging data point is our return hires, staff who have left our district for a time and then chose to come back. Not that I have any bias. But this tells us that WCPSS is seen as a place that people want to return to. And this begins to speak to our culture and our opportunities. We also had about 149 promotions. Many of these were instructional assistants that moved to teaching positions. And this reflects our intentional work to create pipelines for growth and career advancement inside of our system. This slide talks about our recruitment efforts. So our recruitment efforts this year have expanded in both scope and, I would say, sophistication. We refreshed our career site last year to make it more user-friendly and searchable, with landing pages for specific job categories and interest forms that allow candidates to signal their intent quickly. However, we are now seeing the fruits of all of this labor. Candidates are telling us they can easily find our postings. They are also telling us they are attempting to complete our application on their cell phone. Our next iteration of changes will be ensuring that all of our processes are seamless, no matter what device our candidates are using. We have also expanded our recruitment team, so now not only are they able to provide candidate care, but they also serve as liaisons for our hiring managers and our school staff. This dual support strengthens the entire hiring cycle. Importantly, we have also broadened our outreach channels. We are intentionally building connections with HBCUs, diverse community groups, and non-traditional organizations, in addition to attending so many job fairs. Through our advertising partners, we are running targeted advertising campaigns for hard-to-fill roles and guiding candidates from their first application through to placement. Recruiters are proactively reaching out, checking in, and matching applicants to schools that fit their skills. Beyond advertising, we continue to leverage resume drives, collegiate classroom visits, district job fairs, and our Future Teachers program to ensure that we are consistently attracting the strongest candidates. Our career site data confirms that this work is paying off. Between April and June of 2025, we saw strong growth in the traffic to our site and engagement with job postings. More importantly, we are converting all of those clicks into completed applications and hires. This is exactly the kind of return that we want to see in our recruitment advertising. We also know that candidates are spending a lot of time on our website. We are analyzing what we post, how we post, and most importantly, the ease of use of the information that we share. We know that many of our candidates, again, are coming to us on their cell phone. So we want our application process to be easy for them to access and complete. We want our postings to be shareable so that you can tell a friend that Wake County is the absolute most perfect fit for them. Equally important is the experience of our candidates. This slide shows you a little bit of our iSIMS platform. Our recruiters now have tools that allow them to access role fit, discover hidden talent, and provide regular status updates to candidates. In addition to improved communication and customer service, I want to highlight 3 amazing tools that do depend a little bit on our AI that are changing how we approach recruitment. They are Talent Match, Talent Discovery, and Role Fit. These tools allow our recruiters to not only source candidates, but to truly match them to the right positions. With Talent Match, we can see which applicants align best with specific roles. Talent Discovery lets us help uncover candidates that we might have otherwise missed, like those who bring valuable skills but aren't always actively applying. And Role Fit ensures that candidates are guided toward schools and positions where they are most likely to succeed and to stay. Together, these tools are helping us move from simply filling vacancies to strategically placing talent in ways that strengthen schools long term. For candidates, that means better communication. It means a smoother process and a stronger sense that WCPSS cares about them as individuals. This not only helps us to close these vacancies, but it also strengthens our reputation as a choice in a very competitive job market. This year, we welcome 61 new teachers that are international, that are representing over 20 different countries. In total, we now have about 240 international teachers working across 41 Wake County schools. These educators are certified in areas where we have our greatest needs. They are in elementary education, world languages, ESL, dual language, and secondary math and science. They not only bring critical skills, but they also bring diverse cultural experiences that enrich our students' classrooms and our students' learning. Our Future Teachers program continues to be one of our greatest success stories. Since 2019, we have hired 95 future teachers, with 17 beginning their careers this fall. During the last school year, we selected 45 new participants for the program, and today, 130 students are actively engaged in that pipeline. These students are receiving professional development, mentorship, and a guaranteed job with Wake County Schools once they complete their teacher ed programs. And looking ahead, the application for the 2025-2026 cohort will open on February 1st. This ensures that we will continue to grow our own talent. We also expanded our use of student teachers as a recruitment pipeline. This year, 136 student teachers were hired into permanent roles. That is 50 more than last year. In addition, we participated in 35 university and college fairs. We held 3 district job fairs this past year. We've done resume drives. We've made new connections with universities about next steps. Things like, how can we strengthen the pipeline of movement from, say, a SPED IA to a teacher in ways that remove things such as barriers of time and cost. Most importantly, we have been highly intentional, not only with our budget, but with our time. These events not only allow us to connect with candidates, but also keep Wake County Schools visible and competitive in the broader job market. Candidates are telling us they want a place where they can belong. Our recruitment team is aimed to not let just that be a want, but to be the basis behind every single thing that we do. So what's next for us? As we look ahead, our focus is on deepening the pipelines that we know work best. We will continue to strengthen the instructional assistant to teacher pathway, particularly in special education where the need is most pressing. We will increase our university classroom visits to connect with candidates earlier in their teacher prep journey. We will maintain targeted recruitment strategies for our hardest to fill roles. And all of these steps have to be proactive. We are designed to anticipate future needs and ensure that our classrooms remain staffed with highly qualified and committed educators. I know that we are just about out of time for our allotted amount of time for today's work session, but are there any questions that we can answer about our current staffing needs?
Sure. So thank you all for bringing these updates, and I'm sure there's questions around. We'll just go around the table. I'll start with Ms. Gordon and make our way around.
Thank you. This was amazing. It is so promising to see the gains that we have made with staffing, particularly around like the future teachers of it. But I had 2 questions on slide 4, where we are talking about those gains. What have we done differently from last year or in the past? What have we done differently that are causing these gains?
Crystal can't speak to differently because she just started this spring. But, I think it is about being more intentional. We have been able to expand our recruitment team, and you can see, you first saw with our bus driver recruiter, right, how we were able to make gains when we had a person focused on bus driver recruitment, walking folks through the process. You saw it with M&O as we've described, where we've been able to really increase our hires there. And now we have also a couple folks who can focus on teachers and IAs, so I think some of it is expanding that recruitment team. A lot of it is also our advertising and our recruitment. We used to be, our former director would say, sort of a post and hope district, where we would just post our positions and hope that people would come. But we're not doing that anymore. And even when we do post, our iSIMS platform and our recruitment agency, those postings get out there more. They're more searchable. But then we're also exploring different, recruitment efforts, paid advertising, those kinds of things to really get our positions out there. So I think that is also helpful. So I think it's been a number of things. Future Teachers, like you said, continues to grow. we're much more intentional now about our student teachers and making sure that we keep the best ones so they don't jump to other districts before we can get them to stay with us. So I think it's just being intentional in all of those areas. And it was exciting to see today as we were sort of doing the final prep for the presentation, Crystal and Christy wanted to talk more about next steps than what we've already done. So they're really continuing to look at how can we be intentional about these positions.
I think another thing that's really unique is we have these standing meetings. No one wants another standing meeting, right? But we are meeting on a weekly or bi-weekly basis with communications. We're meeting bi-weekly or weekly basis with transportation and with maintenance and operations. We have a standing meeting. And so that level of support and saying this is not just an HR function, but this is a function of our district, that wraparound support that we're providing for candidates has been, in my opinion, game-changing, because it keeps our eye really on the prize and to know that, hey, we're all in this together. And so we put our hands in a little bit here and a little bit there and borrow some money from here and get some money from there. We can all push in the same direction.
Thank you. Well, in the same respect, speaking about how we move forward, can you talk a little bit more about what our supports will be in increasing the pipeline for IA to teacher?
We've been in conversations with several people in the universities, and we also want to talk together with other teachers and leaders within the district, talk about what will benefit the most. We learned that the barriers, it's about money, and also the time. So if we know that for sure in our next conversations with our partners, we're going to have to bring that at the top as, yes, we would like to take you into consideration, but how is this going to benefit our employees as it relates to money and time?
I think one thing we're finding to add on to that, we knew master's pay, the board approved local master's pay. We knew that would be popular and helpful for employees, but we're now finding universities like that too, right? They want to partner with us with their master's programs and those kinds of things. So we're now starting to engage in, how can that be a good partnership moving forward? So that's been interesting in the last kind of couple months to experience that.
Excellent presentation and sharing data and information that makes sense to see our growth, our gains, where we are, and how we are one day going to fill those 330 bus driver positions that are remaining, but great job out of 940 of them that need to be filled overall. But anyway, I do have one question that I wanted to have, and I don't know if AJ thought that I might ask this question, considering I haven't gotten an answer yet since last year. What about the recruitment processes that we do with our colleges and the collegiate places and spaces? I asked about data that was shown before of the students that are pulled, that are recruited within our collegiate systems, and the different disparities that I'm seeing of the recruitment process within those collegiate systems. How are we doing on making sure that the Fayetteville States of the world have equal access to the NC State students of the world, with being informed and invited and wanting to see their faces within our great system that we just talked about right now? How is that looking for us?
I think we're doing some really unique things that have really been fun to do as a recruitment team. So the big fairs are great, and we love going to those. But we most recently started doing what we call resume drives. So we're sitting down with students and looking at their resumes and getting them ready so that when they get in front of folks, they are highly qualified. We know that they have on their resume exactly what we're looking for as a district. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And we're doing that earlier and sooner so that our not our 11th graders, but our junior students are ready by the time they get to their senior year. We're also looking at ways to do internships that aren't just student teaching, right? Because we all could use an intern. And so how can we do micro projects for students so that, they're seeing themselves in our spaces and seeing the work that we do. We're also attending those HBCU fairs. We're going to places where, we traditionally have not gone, but are, high priority for me as an alum of some of those places.
Very good, thank you. I think it just goes back to some of the things that Board Member Hershey talks about, us being prepared to have succession plans and spaces. I think that if we can train these folks coming in to do other intern positions other than just the teaching, we can prepare our own robust team that's going to come in, and they'll know exactly what to do, and with their new modern way of doing things can make us run even more proficiently. So thank you all for this fantastic job with HR. AJ, I'm going to leave you alone. This was beautiful. This was amazing. Very proud of what I saw today. Thank you.
Mr. Hirsch?
Thank you. I was listening when I was driving, but not watching, promise. So I'm bringing this up, it's something I brought up to Dr. Taylor recently, and I brought up to AJ recently, which is I'd like to see this kind of report on our upper level central services, senior level positions. And it's for a few things. I've been here for 2 years and 9 months, and we've seen some positions open up, and sometimes they get filled quickly. I think we've had 2 chief academic officers, or whatever, I'm not sure the exact title.
Chief Academic Officer.
Yes. And that filled quickly, both times. But we've had other positions, the special education position stayed open for a long time. Facilities, we've worked some stuff out, but we couldn't find somebody. Bus driver, the head of transportation. And I've heard conversations with my colleagues too about what kind of training we're doing when we hire new area superintendents. What training do they have prior to becoming? And so what I'm getting at is how do we create a grow your own program? Because I don't know how many people in here could retire tomorrow. And we've seen a district recently that went through some issues because they lost a lot of people. And if we lose a lot of people quickly, I want us to be in a position to say, hey, we've got this second level, 5 people, 3 people, whatever it is, they're ready to step up and, be in charge of finances or HR or technology or security. And so I feel like that's not a current strength of ours. So I'd love to see that kind of report and building a program out at that level and not just this level. And the reason I brought it up too is because I want my colleagues to know that a couple of them knew, but I wanted to share that I had those conversations.
So I'll be able to share more about that later tonight when I update the board. But you're absolutely right that it is a retirement factor that has been impacting public education for, I would say, the last 20 years. And it's just been cyclical. And we can absolutely see that certain positions are going to have an even greater need. When you think about a chief academic officer or positions in the academic field, well, that's kind of what we are. We're in the business of education. You've got a lot of people with experience, and so we're going to be a lot faster in finding someone. But with those skill-specific positions that may be outside of education, it's going to be hard to find. And what we now recognize, we've been recognizing this for a long time, is that other districts that have those positions, that have those people with the qualifications, they're going to do things above and beyond to try and retain those people. And so that makes it really difficult that we can identify a person and they could come to Wake and make $150,000, but that district may match that, and that person says, live where I am and make the same thing versus going there. That makes it a struggle. And when we talk about retirement, I just happened to look. I think it was
Don't look at me.
Not even close.
maybe 2 people that aren't there, but that's the problem that we have. It is, we can look at teachers, we can look at administrators, principals at school, senior staff. Every district is struggling with that. It has been that way for 20 years for me. But
I think Mr. Leader has.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point. I mean, your points, Mr. Hershey, are spot on in my opinion, and critical to the ongoing nature of any organization, but in this case, the Wake County Public School System. But as a bright spot, some of what, perhaps even much of what you're talking about, is taking place. And while we have not been able to fill the senior director of transportation position yet, I will note that we've opened a new year without that position in place, and everything is in a steady state, which does speak to what's underneath that layer.
Yeah.
Both structurally, process-wise, and staff and leadership. Just not been able to find the right candidate for the role. But I'm not trying to take away from anything.
Good points.
Yeah, that is a good point.
That's both of them.
Thank you. Thank you. I was excited to hear you present it, but when I looked at it earlier today, the slide deck was exciting just to see. So thank you, and congratulations, and for all your hard work, and we appreciate your team. I do think it's important to acknowledge, my understanding with spec ed is that fewer college kids are going into that field. Fewer kids in general are going into the teaching profession, but with the spec ed piece, it's much worse. That's a national trend. I don't think it's any different in North Carolina. So I just think it's important to acknowledge that, and I know y'all are working hard. We all know how critical those roles are, but it is something I think we should just recognize that it's a real challenge. And then anecdotally, can you talk about how we compare with other districts with our, I'm not asking you to give me numbers, but do you feel like Wake is in a better position because of, we get great support from our county commissioners with our supplements, and that doesn't necessarily impact every single staff member, but do you feel like, as the district as a whole, that as far as recruiting and retaining, we're in a good position?
We were better than almost everybody.
Say that again?
We were better than almost everyone.
Okay, well, that's not
I think some of the some of the tinier districts, they have very few positions to fill. Then they didn't report their vacancy rate.
Sure.
They reported that they only had 3 positions to fill. Well, they're only filling 33. And so, in comparison, that's not apples to apples. But the news media basically celebrated us as being the exemplar, and so we'll take that.
All right. Thank you.
Dr. Ray?
Thank you. Thank you for a good presentation. And you had mentioned about IAs becoming teachers, and I'm sure that there's an incentive to doing so. So I see that kind of the flip side of it is, we are losing IAs to become teachers, and so, how do we replenish that supply, and how do we do that? I know that that's a big part of what you guys are working on, and just curious, kind of what strategies you guys have in terms of tapping into resources, communities, and things like that.
Yep, so I'll use the job fair that we had this weekend as an example. So we held a job fair for CNS with our staff and CNS staff over the weekend. I think at last count we had 100 and some odd RSVPs for that fair. Over 96 of those folks showed up. There are currently like 40 positions that CNS needs to fill. So one of our strategies is taking that clientele that applied for those positions and say, give it a week or so. CNS has filled the positions that they need to fill, and then those other people that have RSVP'd, we're going to advertise our IA positions, we're going to advertise our bus driver positions, because often the education level starting is about the same. And so if we can continue to do things like that, we can get people in large bulks and then move them from one train to the next. It only helps feed that next part of the pipeline.
Yeah, I have personal experience of people applying for a part-time job, not knowing that they really needed a full-time job. So maybe that when you look at some of these the applicant pool, I think you can go into this area just as well.
I think that adds to the work of the recruiter, to be able to have those conversations and to know where that candidate is coming from and be able to place them successfully. And with our recruitment team, we're able to do that more than we were before.
Good. Great, thank you.
Ms. Poffo?
Yeah, I wanted to say this great presentation. I have to go back and I'm doing a little bit of transitioning, so I did not get to hear all of it, so I apologize. And if it is already been said, I'll go back and listen, just tell me. With the bus drivers, it showed that we were down 30 from 2024. And I think we had talked about this before, but do they do an exit interview with the bus drivers that do leave to see where we can improve or what we can do to help recruit some more?
There is an exit survey that our recruiters are working with, our recruiter is working with. I think that, one of our areas of growth will be utilizing that data to its fullest potential. That's a new survey for us, a new process for us, but that is something that we're looking at, doing a better job of understanding what is it, why did you leave?
Right.
We do know that that industry in itself is transient, right? Because there are so many different driving opportunities that people now have.
Yeah.
And so we have to really work hard to maintain that culture and that space where people see that as, this is where I belong and this is my space. Otherwise, they're going to move to the Amazons or the Ubers or whatever that are now new driving opportunities that maybe we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago.
And just to add to that, we have as a district over the last, 5 years, invested in some research studies. We've done a couple of different surveys. We've hired a firm to go out and talk to bus drivers who have left. So we have a good idea of what the opportunities are in terms of retention.
Okay, great.
I have a couple. A lot of my colleagues raised some of mine, so I just went through and scratched those off. But I will say this is amazing. I was able to actually watch the article that came out on WRL or ABC 11, which one, that really talked about the great things in the pieces. So I am curious to know, as you're going out and doing these recruitments, what is some of the feedback that you're hearing from potential candidates, and what changes, if there are any, that we should consider through policy to help make it a little bit easier for you all to recruit great applicants?
I think number one, people want to belong somewhere. They want to be at a place where they see themselves, they see their work as being valued and worth the investment. The other thing is customer service is huge. People often tell us, well, it's hard to get in wake, or I need someone to call me back, or I need someone to acknowledge my application. And so that's part of the work that our team is doing, but also part of the message that we're passing on the school staff, that when we have people apply, we have to follow up with those candidates. Otherwise, we are going to lose them to our neighboring districts. The other thing is money matters. If we're talking about policy, if we're talking about changes that we can make, having master's pay is huge for us. Having that additional supplement, it matters to our candidates. It's often the choice between them going to us or to a neighboring district. And so we can't lose the headway that we've made. I think the last piece is that advertising matters. If people don't know that we exist, then they will disappear from the radar. And so we're not even a blip on in their thought. And so we have to continue the advertising work that we're doing in order to stay relevant and current for those candidates.
Thank you. And then I know it was mentioned that we do exit interviews for bus drivers, but I'm curious to know, do we also do exit interviews with teachers as they're leaving? I know when I resigned, I had requested one, which was not the norm, but to really set out the tone and display that expectation. So teachers, principals can hear what they can control in their buildings to make that culture a little bit better. So is that a standard across the district?
So we do have an exit survey that's written, and sometimes it's a challenge to get folks to take it, but we do have a team that's working on trying to get sort of folks to take it more and analyze that data. Anytime somebody does ask, we certainly will do an in-person exit survey, but I don't think it's something we've systemically kind of put in place. It's something we can certainly look at, though.
I would love for us to kind of go that route to see, besides a survey, what are some other pieces that folks are hearing. I know money is going to be a big factor, but Are there culture things in buildings that we can address through the, working with the superintendent to address those pieces? Because oftentimes, to the point you raised, folks do want to be a part of something that they see themselves in and belong. And if that's not necessarily in a culture of a school, then we need to fix that ASAP. And I do know our Future Teacher program is a success, and I always look forward to that launching. But are we using those students to be ambassadors and to recruit fellow colleagues or peers of theirs about this opportunity to, is that happening, or how are we getting more students who may not necessarily be at the high school level, but at the middle school level, getting them excited about this opportunity? So I guess if you could speak a little more to that.
Absolutely. I think indirectly and directly, right? So Sherry does an amazing job with that program, hands down. But last week, I think it was last week, all the days run together, I was at Winston-Salem State, and a student proudly came up to me as a member of one of our future teachers. And she said, "Why don't you have a line?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm here by myself." But she said, "Hold on, let me go get you some students." And so she went and got 4 or 5 students that were ed majors and was like, "You need to come to Wake County, and here are the reasons why." And so while that is indirectly using her, I think that she has the wherewithal, she has had the experiences, she understands the value of her program, and all of that speaks to the work that was done indirectly to influence her, right? Because if she didn't have that information, she wouldn't have shared it with those students. And so we can do some things probably in a more strategic way, but I think providing students with this is the why of this program. This is why you matter. It allows them to have those conversations, and sometimes that's more valuable than us standing in front and being sage on stage.
And, Winston-Salem State is up the street from that great school that I attended. Aggie Pride all day. So we got to get our Aggies in that end.
We were also at A&T last week. So A&T had a fair that had over 6,000 in attendance, and we attended that, and it was great. We got great feedback. Again, those type of fairs talk to us getting in front of students earlier because it was open to freshmen through seniors. And so we were able to get in front of those students early to say, we're an option, and we're going to continue to do that.
And I often go out as much as I can and tell folks, hey, we have master's pay in Wake County. I know another county may be great, but we can offer more. I'm very curious. I know that we have a partnership with Shaw University. Are we leveraging that to really get into their education students, to let them know, hey, we are right down the street, we offer master's pay, or just really branding this a little bit better than we can, so students who may not have attended Wake County or know about Wake County may be interested in teaching here. So just curious about that. And I had one more thought or question. I'm trying to make sure I know typically it's hard to, get teachers engaged in low-performing schools or high-need schools. Have we considered as a district of doing a hiring freeze just to prioritize those high-need schools that are hard to fill to make it a all-hands-on-deck approach?
We had this wonderful TSL grant that was focused on that, and it's starting to incentivize people to go and to stay. So I think we've got to pivot now that that's been terminated and determine, what are some other strategies. I personally always struggle with a hiring freeze because then we have so many positions. But I think to your point, we've got to continue to look at now how do we really look at, incentivize people to go and stay in those lower performing schools.
Are there any other questions or comments?
One last, if I could ask, I just had a quick note here about the onboarding processes a little bit around when HR, when they do come in. Is there anything that we do specifically about helping the staff understand all the resources we have and how we actually do things around where CMAP, besides where CMAP is? Because I just remember there was a time where all of it wasn't shared. So I was just wondering, because you guys seem like y'all are so on it, I just want to hear that onboarding process. What does that look like about sharing all the resources within Wake? Because Wake is amazing, and we have a lot of great resources. And I was just curious, is it only broken down based upon the type of hire that you are, or is it shared just openly, like all the amazing resources we have, or where educators need to go to connect with certain things to know? Because I know at one point at a BAC meeting, we alerted principals about a 800 number, not 800, but a phone number they can call for IEPs. So I just wondered, for people who are principals that are being hired, or even our educators that are being hired, do they know these little nooks? They can't know everything is so much, but is there some type of binder or something they get where it's just like, boom, all these great resources? Because you can't share it in a half-day session when you have other things to share. Just wondering, is that something we do or looking to do, or might want to put a bug in the ear to do?
So what I can share with you is we are in the process of revamping our onboarding process. Right now, when a new person is processed into our district, we have a virtual onboarding process through our platform, iSense. What we did kind of pilot this summer that was phenomenal and amazing, and so now we need to go to the next level, was we had informational sessions. So we invited our new hires to participate in a virtual session on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 o'clock or 6:30, and it was all voluntary. And someone from the HR department came on and answered questions about anything and about everything about being in a new system. And what we learned was it was beneficial. So we talked as an HR team on how can we now strategically approach that so that it can now become a process. So we are in discussion. We're going to change some things with the onboarding, and I think in the near future you'll see better things that comes with onboarding new hires in our district.
Thank you. I already see it today. Appreciate that.
Well, thank you all so much for the work that you're doing and the process that you all are laying out. So we appreciate it and looking forward to, bringing as many folks to Wake County as we possibly can. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right. So this final work session topic is our District 8 vacancy. And I believe Ms. Allen will be joining us for this one, right on cue as always. Ms. Allen, just let me know when you're ready, or you want me to start?
I'll go wherever you go.
So the chair, Ms. Allen, and I worked to put together a timeline that's very similar to a timeline that we've utilized in the past to replace this. And I will say that we felt best not to bring on the new District 8 person in the middle of the reassignment, so therefore they would not be at a disadvantage. And so, as you all know, and hopefully the public knows, that the chair and I have split up Ms. Mahaffey's district. So he has the northern part of her district, I have the southern half, and so the District 8 is still being taken care of. We have the District 8 website that goes to Ms. Allen, and she disseminates the information to the chair and I and the superintendent to ensure that those constituents still have an avenue to voice their concerns. So Ms. Allen, I will kick it over to you.
Okay. Everybody has seen the information that's located in Assembly. We have a vacancy timeline and process. We're discussing the item today. We can release the vacancy ad both digitally and in print. The district website will have the ad like we have done before in several other vacancies that we've had, so it will run on our website. I did finally get back from the News and Observer. They do not have a Western Wake edition anymore. And they only do the print part of the N&O on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So those are the only 3 days that the newspaper is printed. But we can run the ad for a whole month. This time, the price has changed a little bit. It's gone up by about $300 or $400, which is not bad, but we could only run it for 3 days in print, because we would run it on Friday, Sunday, Wednesday versus tomorrow, Wednesday, because you guys have to approve if you approve this timeline. And so I don't want to assume that this is going to be done and that you can do this by tomorrow. So we would have it for a release to print Friday, we would run Friday, we would run Sunday, we would do the following Wednesday. That would be the last time it would run in print. But it would be digital for a full month, in and O, for newsobserver.com. So it would run for a full 30 days, and we would have it on our district website. Okay? We would compile all applications October 31st, which means however they get the information from bringing it here to the office to submitting it electronically through District 8 vacancy at wcpss.net, which is what we have done previously as well. We would share applicant information at the October 7th work session, the October 21st work session, and the 11/4 work session if needed. At all 3 of those, you would get the number of applicants that have applied, you would get if there were any issues, and you would get to confirm the timing of the candidate interviews and candidate questions at the 11/4 work session. We would get those candidate interview questions to you between 10:31 and 11:4 so that you guys can review them, make any changes, and Dr. Ng and Vice Chair Swanson is going to help with the applicant questions. I'm getting nods, so I'm going to keep going.
You can just wait till the end to do questions.
Okay, candidate interviews. These are possible dates. We're trying to get this done prior to the Thanksgiving holiday, so we're not messing with holiday plans. So we're looking at Monday, November the 17th, between a time frame of 8 to 2. And then if needed, we will do November 24th, which is a Monday, from 9 to 12. Again, only as needed. We would actually swear in the District 8 candidate at the December 2nd board meeting. The reason why we looked at December and this longer period of time is because in between now and December, the board has quite a nice lengthy calendar of events, including your enrollment plan, draft 2, and voting on your enrollment plan. It would be kind of hard for somebody to come in and vote on a plan they haven't really had information on and was able to do so. So that is your timeline and your process. If you looked at your vacancy ad, we use the same information we have used previously. However, the number 4 for proof of domicile, we're going to give a date this time of if you are domiciled in the district but you are not able to provide a utility bill, they need to email that District 8 vacancy email address by 4:59, no later than 5. I'll give you a minute. On October 17th. That way they have time to get their information to us. We can get it to you guys and still be able to have everything ready for you guys by October 31st. The deadline, though, for all documents, 4:59, October the 30th. I'll give you a minute, 5 o'clock. That would be the grace time. Right now, the District 8 vacancy at wcpss.net email address is up, as well as the District 8 email address for any questions that come in about District 8, but they are 2 distinct different emails for the reason of making sure that we get the information about the vacancy in the vacancy email. I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Allen, for putting this together. And I did work with Ms. Allen, and I have already sent some edits to the questions, so we'll get those at the 31st. It'll be in everyone's board mail and go from there. So I'll just open up if board members have any questions or comments. Ms. Edmonds?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? So we won't see the questions until October 31st, is that what you just said?
Right, it'll be in your board mail the week of October 31st, and then we'll have a discussion on the questions. But we're hoping at this time that we will not give the questions to the candidates until they're at the table, make it fair for all of the candidates that are there.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Mrs. Caulfield?
I just have a conflict with the 17th, so if that's the date that we pick. I had emailed you the details, but
Okay.
it was recently. I don't know if I can change it.
So we can, so the 24th, I just saw your email, so we can do the 24th if that works for everyone's schedule.
24th for
The interviews, because Ms. Caulfield has a conflict.
November, okay.
Is that fine for?
I'm trying to go, but I'm trying to, well, if it's, as long as it's Tuesdays, that works for me, because that's a scheduled day for me that I know that I can't do anything on because we're at a board meeting. But if we schedule anything outside of a Tuesday, then that affects people's work-life schedule. So I need everything to remain on the
So hearing that,
October.
it would be November the 17th and/or 24th. If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Allen, isn't there a board meeting on the 18th?
That's the board meeting where you vote on the enrollment plan, and you have student achievement and a work session on the 18th.
Right. So the 24th is the word. The 25th would be cutting it close to the 31st and the Thanksgiving
Correct.
holiday. So
And the week before, you have the NCSBA annual conference and the holiday. That's how we ended up with the 17th and the 24th.
right.
But the 24th, again, is if needed.
So we said no to the 10th because it kind of is like a Florida holiday?
Well, it's the week of the NCSB conference, North Carolina School Board Association conference.
And that Tuesday is a holiday.
So the only other option could be the 25th, which is a Tuesday.
And you have a policy committee meeting at 1.
Doesn't the conference start on Wednesday?
You have a holiday for us on Tuesday, so we're closed.
No, I thought you were looking at the 10th.
That's right, I was. I know that there's some conflicts on the 10th.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's okay. I understand.
Laid it out as discussion.
Yeah.
Mr. Hershey had a
I didn't hear anything.
suggestion.
I was whispering, so.
Okay.
Right now, we don't appear to have a facilities meeting on November 5th. I think that's when it's supposed to be. We were going to instead go to Capitol Boulevard site. But if we need to move policy to that instead, and we can,
You have a safety and security committee meeting at 1. Just letting you know.
Yeah, so, but I'm saying like,
fine.
that opens up the 25th. That would be
That
fine.
works for staff to move the policy committee meeting up. That's fine with me as well.
Point of clarity, please.
Sure.
Did you say November 5th?
No, I was saying that we have a slot on November 5th if we needed to move a meeting.
So move policy from
Not on November, not on Wednesdays, I can't. do
November
Wednesdays.
4th.
No, is it the 4th?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Tuesday, November 4th.
They may have sent me the wrong date on the email.
What I'm hearing,
On November 5th, don't we have safety at 1 and
okay.
facilities at 3?
So, Mr.
he's saying put
Oh, yeah, it's a
policy
Wednesday.
in.
right.
I gotcha. Okay.
So he was
I know
saying,
that's sort of back-to-back policy, but
so that's to move the committee meetings to that day if we want to free up the 25th for interviews. That's what I'm
yeah, I
hearing.
know that's a lot of policy back-to-back weeks, but we got to do it. So.
Yeah, if it's November 5th for me, I can't do
Right, so it's not, we're not having the interviews on the 5th. He's
Right.
freeing up a meeting, committee meeting for policy on that date, so the 25th could be an option to have the interviews.
Already meetings set up for that Wednesday, the 5th.
Right.
Isn't, what's that, community engagement season? I think that's October, not November. So I could say I could do the second. Being community.
So just because we'll be voting on this at 5:30, so I want to make sure we got all the details, everybody's on somewhat of a one page here. So the 17th is not feasible. So the 25th is the next option that we have. I'll defer to Ms. Evans, who's our policy chair, about, are you fine with moving your policy?
I am,
Okay.
and I think it gives me enough time to have Dr. Robinson, can we pull those off 2 weeks apart?
Yes, we can do whatever you want us to do, man. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's
So
fine with me.
we'll scratch the 17th.
We're going to have the 25th as the main day, and so the 24th is off the table, because 24th was as needed, and that was a 9 to 12 start time. So your 25th is 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. That's what I'm hearing that you guys want to do. And so you will not have an as-needed day.
Right, that's what I'm hearing. Is that-
Okay.
Just one day, okay.
You're just going to have that one day only.
No matter how many candidates we
That
have.
is correct.
The week of Thanksgiving.
Right, it's the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So that's the only,
A Tuesday.
And we'll need to move the virtual executive committee meeting too.
yeah, we'll have to shift on.
So I think we're okay.
Okay. I got it.
So is there a thumbs up about this? Let's see, 1, 2,
I'm
gonna be there.
3.
Me
Ms.
too.
Rice, are you?
Well, I don't necessarily like the week of Thanksgiving. I think that's why she had it as a as-needed date. I was being realistic. I mean, I'm able to do what we can do, but if I'm not here, I think the board can still do what they need to do. If one person's not here, I think that we'll still be quorum. We still can do what we need to do.
Those meetings anyway.
I'm just being honest.
Right,
I mean, if we have the dates that we have,
so
yeah.
I'm hearing that it'll be the 25th.
I'm also good with the
I think
17th.
that's just so close to the holiday.
Were you
It's
good with the
just-
17th? It
Ms.
was
Caulfield
just
had
Ms.
a-
Caulfield.
Yeah, I'm okay. I can arrange what I need to arrange on the 17th. I just can't do Wednesdays.
Yeah, Ms. Caulfield has a,
Ms. Caulfield has the challenge on the 17th.
Trust me, it's not fun either.
right.
No. Yeah, no, we all have work things.
Turn it,
That's for me.
turn the load.
Just as something to ponder, you don't have to come up with the whole schedule now. I mean, you could.
Well, we wanted to, so we didn't have to
Yeah.
come back and retouch this. So everything is out in the public, so it's clear and concise.
I mean, I understand, but I mean, you could just pick the deadline for applications. That part now, that's the end of October anyway.
Right.
And then you could work with, Melissa to try to find the interview dates. I think that, because you got, a good month to play with some possible dates.
Not necessarily, because
Yeah, not for me.
November is already tight, and if we're trying to swear the person in December 2nd to participate in that annual meeting and whatnot. So we looked through all the possibilities with that when we put together the draft.
Is
I'll be
it too
quiet.
close to do, if nobody wants to do it that week of Thanksgiving, is it too close to do it on December 1st and then just have the meetings following day at the board meeting to welcome them?
They would get sworn in the next day.
The next
so
day.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they'll get the job and then,
That's not fair. As a person who's gone through that experience, I don't know, I can't speak for Ms. Gordon, but to have me in and then you tell me, and then you want your folks' family and people, whoever, to participate, to tell, that's a short
Okay, I was
turnaround
just trying to come
time.
up with an alternative.
So, I mean-
And I'm okay with certain dates if we're going out, but I have a firm that I run, and people book dates with me well in advance, and they pay quite a bit of money for me to come train them, and so for me to shift their dates just like that is a little bit challenging for
Right,
me.
I mean, majority of us on the board do juggle multiple jobs or have a day job and this, so I think it's part of the job,
Yeah.
which is what we're sworn to do. And it's actually a question that we have, how do you juggle all of this? So I think I saw a majority with the 25th. Are we still good with that?
Does the 8 o'clock start time work for everybody?
Yes.
We will make it work.
So I think if you said that
Because
she
we have
is
to
the
have
only
a
person.
quorum
Right.
in order to get that started, so.
So we'll have it on the 25th, 8 start, maybe having the first one start at 8:15 to give some wiggle room and go through the process. Does that work? All right.
Absolutely.
That'll be on our action item for the 5:30 meeting. So with all of that being said, we will adjourn our work session. Right.